I had to recognize the fact that you need to create a value system that will guide the way you live your life. And the one thing that keeps a lot of people going is the fact that we all have the ability to dream. There's nothing as powerful, ladies and gentlemen, as an idea whose time has come. Nothing as powerful. One of the things that I've said about life, that which you cannot control, don't worry about. I don't know about you, I don't know where you come from, I don't know what your dreams are, I don't know where you are. But at one point in my life, I had a dream. And most people that I knew, and most people who knew me, kept saying, it's an impossible dream. It's not going to happen. For a great amount of time, I truly believed what they said about me, because there was no other reason to believe otherwise. Because the odds were totally stacked up against me. I don't know where you are in your career, I don't know where you are in your business life, I don't know where you are in your family life. But I guess the one thing that keeps me going, and the one thing that keeps a lot of people going, is the fact that we all have the ability to dream. The most powerful thing about dreams is when things don't seem to work, when fear engulfs you, your dreams will inspire you. My dream inspired me. When I could not find answers to questions that I consistently asked people, when the days looked much longer, when a day felt like a week, and a week felt like a month, and a month felt like a year, my dream kept me growing. This dream that I had kept me going. My dream was quite simple. Because I grew up in the township, which is not too far from here. I grew up walking the streets of Tembisa barefooted. My dream was quite simple, that one day, when I have the ability to make choices about my life, that I would wear the most amazing pair of shoes. My dream was simply, how was I going to transform myself from being a barefooted township boy to being a man who can be able to have a pair of snakeskin shoes? To some people that might look like a small dream, but to me it was a big dream, because you see, a man who cannot afford to drink tea with milk, maybe his dream is to one day be able to drink tea with milk. Maybe just understanding the transition from where he is to a place where he can be, maybe that journey can inspire change in his life. And I want to share with you the simple principles that through the years I have learned. And not only learned, but I've applied them. And as I applied them, my life transformed. And the most amazing things happened. I was able to get my pair of shoes. Not only the pair of shoes, but quite a lot of other things that accompanied the pair of shoes. And also know that, life is it's an amazing phenomenon. Because sometimes we're just not too sure of the things that we want. Because most of the time, society dictates how success should be in our lives. Most of the time people say success is a big car, big house, a big bank account, beautiful clothes. Yeah, maybe that should be the result of success, but I truly believe that success should be much more bigger than the results we get. And in my travel and searching for knowledge, I've always wanted to know what success is all about and how one can become successful. And I searched for this elusive word, success. What does really success mean to me? How could I articulate it in my life in a way that it won't limit my growth or limit my wings, so that I could fly to places that I want to fly to? And as I traveled the world, people kept asking me, what is the secret of success? And this they asked me when I told them where I was, and them observing where I was. And the question has always been, so what is le secret of life? What is the secret of success? What is this magical portion that if I gave you to drink, suddenly your life changes? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know any portion that one can drink and just your life changes. But one thing I know is about this. A simple process I learned many years ago. And this process says, as a man thinketh, so shall he be. The reality of our lives is determined by the quality of our thoughts. Now, scientists come up with a lot of funny things. And one of the things that I've learned quite recently, which is quite amazing, they say an average adult in a day has 60,000 thoughts running through their mind. 60,000 thoughts. And out of these 60,000 thoughts, 90% of them are consistent. They're the same thoughts all the time. And out of the 90% of them, we make out of the 60,000 thoughts, we make 2,000 decisions every day. Out of the 2,000 decisions that we make, 95% of those decisions happen automatically. 60,000 thoughts, 2,000 decisions, 90% of the thoughts are constant, 95% of the decisions that happens in our lives every day, they happen automatically. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge becomes, if 95% of the time when you make decisions, those decisions happen automatically, it means your life is determined by your thought processes. Because if your thought processes are not congruent to the goals and dreams of your life, then you're going to be in trouble. Because most of the time, decisions will be made on your behalf based on what you have stored in your subconscious mind. Now, how did I challenge this process that I've just recently learned about? Because the truth is, this is universal knowledge. This is knowledge that has been there 5, 6, 7,000 years ago, but suddenly it's now coming to the fore and people are learning about it. Now, how I transcended, how I moved from being a barefooted young boy and getting to a place where I could be able to wear the kind of shoes that I've always loved to wear, I had to undergo a certain process. And this process was to create a differentiator. Because I recognize that most people do the same things over and over again, and therefore they don't get the kind of results that they wanted. So I said to myself, how can I become different? How can I create a differentiator that will put me in a place that will give me the opportunity to make my dream come true? Because if everybody that I knew was doing the same thing consistently, getting the same results consistently, I needed to change. I needed to find something that I could do that would create a differentiator. Perhaps you may learn from this process. Perhaps some of you are doing this process unconsciously. And perhaps some of you, when you walk out here, you'd have thought about your life differently. And the first thing that I recognize as, when you want to become truly manifest of the greatness that you were born to become, you have to get into a place where your life is not defined by the things around you. One will not define you by the car you drive, nor the location you live at, nor the clothes you wear. When the definition of who you are truly speaks about the authenticity of your life. And that place is a place that a lot of people yearn to get into. The great Buddhists have spoken about it many years. Some of them call it enlightenment. And I call it self-actualization. I say when you get into a place where you self-actualize, where you define yourself not on material things around you, but by the value that you give to other people and the value that you deliver to humanity, then you have reached a place very few will ever get to. And the second thing that I learned was the fact that for every human being, for every organization, for every group of people, for them to truly achieve their goals, they must have a vision. The organization that you work for has a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values. And every day when you come to work, all they do is to ensure that whatever they do drives towards the vision. Truth becomes, not so many people have their own personal visions. So I recognize the fact that for me to really ascend and for me to get to that place where I want to go to, I had to have a clear vision about my life. And once I have a vision, I then become easy to take that vision and break it down into smaller achievable goals. But before I do that, I had to recognize the fact that you need to create a value system that will guide the way you live your life. And once you have this value system, you then translate it into goals. Like I say, when I was growing up in Tembisa, I came from a poor family. So in my head, for me to change, the next or simplest thing for me was, I want to be rich. Because, it's one extreme, poverty, and rich is another extreme. So in my own language, I wanted to become rich. But unless you define what that means for you, unless you define how you're going to get into the process of doing that, you might do anything that you believe will bring you the riches that you want. You might end up in jail like most people that are in jail with a lot of money because they did not have values that guided the way they do business. So I had to find and build myself a set of values so that these values could guide the way I behave and the way I do business. And therefore I took those values and made them into my goals. And eventually I recognized this one simple fact, that most great people, and when I'm talking about greatness, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about celebrity. I'm not talking about tabloid greatness. I'm talking about the greatness in people like Mother Teresa, the greatness in Martin Luther, the greatness in Muhammad Ali, the greatness in Mahatma Gandhi, the greatness in Nelson Mandela, people that truly manifested the best that they were and touched lives and changed and transformed them. Most of these people had what I call a dream team. So therefore I said to myself, for me to change my life and really get to this place that I've always wanted to get into, I needed to follow certain principles. I needed to come up with certain systems so that these systems may help me to get to the place that I wanted to get into. Now I'm going to share with you how each of these principles turned my life around, and I hope in the process you will find something powerful and take it with you that can help you transform your life. Now the first thing that I learned about self-actualization was quite simple. When Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest and a lot of people interviewed him, he said to people, you know what, I have climbed and found and climbed my own Everest. You have to find your own Everest and climb it. Now I don't know what your Everest is, but let me share with you what my Everest was. I did my education in Tembisa, and as you may know, we went on boycotts, we went on strikes, we didn't write exams. So one year I decided I needed to do something different. So I was given an opportunity to go to an institution. Now this institution was created for troubled youths, you know, the youth in trouble. So ladies and gentlemen, you can tell that I was a troubled youth. That does not necessarily mean I'm a troubled adult now. You know, I left my troubledness in my youth. So I went into this institution to go and finish my matric, because this institution was sponsored by the South African Council of Churches to make sure that the young troubled people in the township could at least get an equal opportunity like anybody else and get an education. So I went to this institution to go and do my matric. Now when I got to this institution, I was doing maths and science. Because in my own little dream, I thought being a doctor would be a good thing. I thought if I'm a doctor, I'll be able to buy many, many other shoes. You know, so I wanted to become a doctor. Like most of us when we grew up in the township, you know, see a man in white dust coat, you think that's a good life to live. I want to become a doctor. So I went into this institution and they admitted me, and I spent the first 3 months studying in this institution. Now, before Easter, you would write a test, small exam, you go home, they post you the results, and then you come back after Easter, and you know, they tell you, you've got to improve there, make things happen, and stuff like that. I did write the exam, ladies and gentlemen, and I did go for my Easter break. But the funny thing is, everybody received an envelope with their results, and I did not get mine. You know what? I'm a little bit of an optimist sometimes. And I said to my friends, they're saving the best for last. Yeah? Have you ever had that feeling? That, you know what, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to tell me because they want to call all of you at the assembly and tell you how much of a great man I am and show you how good I am in maths and science. My friends looked at me and they nodded their heads as if they knew. And they laughed a little bit, but I was still optimistic, you see. And the time came for us to go back to school. And the first week, nothing happened. And I thought there was a conspiracy of some sort. And the next Monday, my principal called me to her office. My principal was a white lady because this institution was started by some activists from Wits University. So in her office, it was her and 3 other people. My science teacher and my math teacher. And the 4th person was a very funky looking white guy. Now I must explain what a funky looking white guy is, because I don't see any funky looking white guy here. Now a funky looking white guy is a white guy who wears All-Star sneakers. You know All-Star? Convex All-Star sneakers. He wears a Levi's jean and he wears a Bob Marley t-shirt and he's got long hair. Now that's a funky looking white guy. Now they introduced me to this funky looking white guy. He was doing a PhD in psychology. And I thought, this doesn't look very well. My principal had to start. My principal said, you know, introduce this gentleman, he does his PhD, blah, blah, blah. He's going to help you out. And then she asked me the most ridiculous question you could ever ask a young black man in the year 1989. She looked me straight in the eye and she said to me, do you have problems? And I looked at this woman. I am black. It's 1989. This institution was open for troubled youths. Of course I have problems. I mean, how can you ask such an obvious question? Of course I have problems. And then she says to me, yeah, this guy is a psychologist, is going to help you out. At the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm African. We don't do this psychology stuff. You know, we do sangomas. You know, we do ZCC. We do all these other things, excluding psychology stuff. We don't do that. We go to a sangoma, throws the bones, and he tells you what to drink, and tells your neighbor is pulling a fast one on you. You know, you call your neighbor 1 or 2 uppercuts if you have the money to go to get a lawyer to get out of jail. But otherwise, we don't do psychologists. And I thought, okay, maybe things are changing. Maybe I should accept that things are changing. And then she gives an opportunity to my maths teacher. My maths teacher looks at me and says to me, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I don't think you have a future as far as mathematics is concerned. I don't think you should be calculating anything in your life. And I'm thinking, what did I do so bad? And she says, you only got 2 in mathematics. So she says to me, I like